Former President Trump may face more fines from the gag order in the New York criminal trial.
The order prohibits Trump from talking about witnesses and jurors. Prosecutors are asking the judge to impose more fines today.
Outside the courtroom, the former president weighed in on the ongoing trial.
Getting ready to spend another day in the courthouse, which is bogus trial that every leading authority on law says should never have been brought, that Alvin Bragg didn't want to bring it until the election happened and then he brought it. You just do know that this case could have been brought 8 years ago. Could have been brought 8 years ago. Instead, they wait and wait and wait. They know it's not a good case, and now it's turned out to be they've lost they have no case. They have no case.
As for the gag order, prosecutors are seeking a $4,000 penalty. That's on top of a $9,000 fine that Justice Juan Merchan imposed on Tuesday.
The fine was for Trump's social media posts questioning the jury selection process and insulting his former lawyer, Michael Cohen.
Merchan said Tuesday that he might jail Trump if he continues to defy the gag order. The judge says the fines allowed by New York law might not be enough to serve as a deterrent for the wealthy former president.
Trump says the gag order restricts his free speech rights and prevents him from responding to political attacks. Former President Trump campaigned in key battleground states yesterday, taking advantage of a full day off from his criminal trial in New York. NTD's Jack Bradley has more from Freeland, Michigan.
Former President Trump held 2 rallies on May 1st, one in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and another one right here in Freeland, Michigan. Now, Trump made a grand entrance in front of thousands of supporters, landing his private jet before giving a talk for about an hour here. He highlighted illegal immigration and the record surge there, as well as inflation and how it's impacting people up here in the Great Lakes. In 2020, Trump lost to Biden by less than 3 percentage points in Michigan and less than 1% in Wisconsin.
In the past 3 years, the average Michigan family has lost $20,000 or $30,000. Think of this, $20,000 to $30,000 thanks to the Biden inflation tax.
While this was happening, President Biden was in Waukesha, Wisconsin, giving a press conference on his support for abortion. Now, up on the stage behind me, President Trump encouraged Biden to debate anytime, anywhere, any place with that podium right next to where he was speaking. I spoke with several locals here at the rally about why they support Trump. Take a look.
Yeah, great economy, no wars.
The economy was amazing. I mean, right now you can't go to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread without spending. It's ridiculous.
More, yeah.
I don't like paying $4 for gas, for one thing, and have high interest rates.
But I'm sick of paying the ridiculous fuel prices. I'm spending over $300 to $400 at a grocery store, so I think...
We know we have the votes out there in the countryside.
I love Trump, and I absolutely need him to win.
I spoke with Lawrence Wilson, an Epic Times reporter covering the presidential race, to get his analysis.
This is a state that was starting to make some wage gains, but those over the last 4 years up till 23 were kind of wiped out because of the effect of inflation.
Trump's hush money case has entered its 3rd week and is expected to last up to 8 weeks. He needs to appear at every trial. Reporting from Freeland, Michigan, Jack Bradley, NTD News.
Coming up, President Biden is visiting Charlotte, North Carolina to meet with the families of law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. What we can expect.
And Georgia is taking matters into its own hands to tackle illegal immigration. The state's governor signed a new immigration enforcement law. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
More than just beautiful dance. It's a touch of the divine. More than just legends. It's the beautiful culture and wisdom of China before communism. More than just a performance. It's an experience that awakens the soul.
Lincoln Center, NJ-PAC, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. Starting March 28th. Tickets at shenyun.com.
Tangazo hili linahusu njaa. Tarajia kuona watoto wakiwa na njaa katika maeneo haya. Mambo yalikuwa bora kwa miaka mingi. Tuliweza kupigana na njaa na watoto wachache walikufa. lakini sasa mambo yamebadilika na kwa mabaya zaidi. Hii ni kwa sababu wakati huu ukame umeangamiza zaidi.
Через війни та конфлікти ми мусимо залишати наші домівки і всі наші речі. Ми навіть не маємо їжі. Тому нам потрібна ваша допомога.
Millions of children are fighting to survive due to inequality, conflict, poverty, and the climate crisis. Save the Children is working alongside communities to provide a better life for children. And there's a way you can help. Please call or go online to give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. We urgently need 1,000 new monthly donors in the next 30 days to help the children we support around the world. You can help provide food, medicine, care, and protection, plus so much more that a child needs, by calling right now and giving just $10 a month.
Ви можете допомогти голодуючим родинам вижити.
All we need are 1,000 monthly donors in the next 30 days. Please call or go online now with your monthly gift of just $10. Thanks to generous government grants, every dollar you give can have up to 10 times the impact. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
Toto kote duniani
потребують вашої допомоги.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child in crisis survives. Please call or go online to hungerstopsnow.org to help save lives today.
When I was growing up, my mom was extremely tidy. We were trained to put things back where we got them from. One day, when I walked into my mom's house, I felt like I walked to someone else's house. There was stuff everywhere. And just growing up the way I grew up and to see this transition was very alarming.
When Shen talked to me, it was a wake-up call, and that's when I went to the doctor.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
A student carrying a weapon was killed by police outside a Wisconsin middle school yesterday. Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul said no one else was harmed and there's an ongoing investigation. The suspect never gained entry to the school. Authorities described the person as a juvenile male but provided no other information. Students were held in lockdown for hours while police searched for additional suspects.
A Mount Horeb area school district spokesman said without recent security upgrades, this could have been a far worse tragedy. He said students immediately told school staff about seeing someone suspicious outside the building, but did not elaborate further. Chicago police have taken into custody 22-year-old Javier Tate Jr., a suspect wanted for murder of an off-duty police officer.
The U.S. Marshals Great Lakes Regional Fugitive Task Force arrested Tate in Glendale Heights, Illinois.
Officer Luis Huesca was fatally shot in the Gage Park area last month as he was returning home from work. Tate was identified as a suspect 5 days before his arrest. And today, President Biden plans to meet with the families of law enforcement officers who were killed in North Carolina this week and also with the officers wounded in the shooting. 4 officers, including one deputy U.S. Marshal, were killed on Monday. They were attempting to serve a warrant for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. According to local police chief, the officers were met with gunfire from a high-powered rifle. The officers returned fire and fatally shot the suspect. Authorities in Maryland have recovered the body of the 5th victim at the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse site. The Unified Command identified the victim as 49-year-old construction worker Miguel Angel Luna Gonzalez. According to the release, investigators recovered his body from inside a red truck. The bridge collapsed in March after a cargo vessel hit it. Authorities are still at work clearing the debris to fully reopen the channel to the harbor.
And a Civil War-era abortion ban, which caused controversy in Arizona, was repealed yesterday in the state Senate.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the vote, which comes 3 weeks after the state Supreme Court revived the law.
Two Republicans, State Senators Shauna Bollock and TJ Shope, voted with the chamber's 14 Democrats to advance the repeal, which passed 16-14. The vote comes a week after 3 Republicans joined all 29 Democrats in the state House to repeal the law. The law bans abortion at all stages of pregnancy except to save the life of the mother. It provides no exceptions for survivors of rape or incest. It also threatens abortion providers with 2 to 5 year prison sentences. The bill next heads to the desk of Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs, who said Wednesday that she looks forward to quickly signing the repeal into law. Republicans had faced increasing pressure to repeal the law. Prominent GOP members, including former President Donald Trump, Senate candidate Kari Lake, and former Governor Doug Ducey, have called on the legislature to take action to moderate the ban. Lawmakers reacted to the repeal.
I'm not afraid of the abortions that I had. I do not fear for my soul.
We're pushing this bill through because we think it's going to win the next election, when I believe just the opposite.
The legislation would clear the way for the state's 15-week limit to remain state law. Democrats argue the 15-week limit is still unpopular. Abortion access advocates are gathering signatures for a ballot initiative to enshrine abortion access into the state's constitution. As senators took to the floor to explain their votes, the discussion grew contentious and at times emotional. Some Republicans blasted the 2 GOP defectors. Republican State Senator Anthony Kern said self-described pro-life Republicans voting to repeal the ban was the epitome of delusion, and compared the vote to Nazi Germany sorting Jewish people at death camps. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Georgia is now the latest state to enact legislation against illegal immigration. Governor Brian Kemp signed a new immigration enforcement law aimed at bolstering public safety.
The governor signed around 10 new measures into law yesterday. He says they serve to counteract lawlessness, boost recruitment of police officers, and make communities safer.
One of the bills requires law enforcement to check the immigration status of some individuals. That includes people who are arrested or detained and those who might have committed a crime.
If the person is in the country illegally, police must then notify federal authorities.
This comes as conservative states across the country have implemented laws targeting illegal immigration, including Florida, Louisiana, and Oklahoma.
And over half of all states are suing the Biden administration. That's over a new rule regarding background checks for gun purchases. Under the new law, almost every gun transfer would require one party to have a federal firearms license. That party also has to perform a criminal background check. This includes private sales.
The rule changes the requirement for determining whether a person is engaged in the business of selling guns. The defining characteristic used to be whether the person sells guns to earn a livelihood. This would now be changed to earn a profit.
The new law is set to take effect next week. Attorneys general from 26 conservative states filed at least 3 lawsuits. They argue that the rule violates certain laws and the U.S. Constitution. And people displaced by the Maui wildfires will soon be placed in modular homes. It's part of a temporary housing initiative.
The first phase is to put up 50 modular homes by July. Hawaii Governor Josh Green said Tuesday he hopes no one will need to be in a hotel by midsummer.
The project will support wildfire victims ineligible for FEMA aid. State agencies and private companies will work together to create 450 temporary studios and 1, 2, and 3 bedroom housing units. The governor's office says the temporary homes can be occupied for up to 5 years.
The state of Hawaii has earmarked $75 million toward the $115 million needed for the project. Another $40 million will come from nonprofit community groups. The housing effort will also provide childcare, healthcare facilities, gardens, playgrounds, and disaster case managers.
Coming up, worldwide threats to the U.S. are under scrutiny on the national stage at a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing that's now underway. We'll bring you that hearing shortly.
A friend of mine, she told me about Bonatti. He was the only one to address all 4 discs as quickly as possible. And if you're to that point where you can't take it anymore, like I was, do your research, find out who the best is, and get it done.
Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes, and it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-357-4821 for your free information. That's 1-800-357-4821. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-357-4821. That's 1-800-357-4821. 1-800-357-4821. Call now.
The glory of piano masterpieces from the Baroque, Classical, and Romantic periods. New Tang Dynasty Television invites you to join the 2024 NTD International Piano Competition. Together, we preserve and revitalize the art of authentic classical piano music. October 14th to the 19th at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Apply now at piano.ntdtv.com.
Fostering a pet for a friend or neighbor can keep families together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
I'm Arian Pastar in South America, Brazil, and we are NTD News.
National security threats abound in 2024. Tensions in the Middle East, the border crisis, an increasingly hostile Chinese regime, and more are monitored by the U.S. intelligence community.
The Director of National Intelligence and the Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency are giving testimony on these threats at a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing.
Let's tune into that now.
Good morning. The committee meets today to receive testimony on the global threats facing the United States and our international partners. I would like to welcome our witnesses, Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines, and Director of Defense Intelligence Agency, Lieutenant General Jeffrey Cruz. I would take a moment to recognize that this is General Cruz's first posture hearing before the committee. Thank you both for joining us, and please convey the committee's gratitude to the men and women of the intelligence community for their critical work. Over the past several months, this committee has received testimony from nearly every military department, armed service, and combatant command about the threats they face. As they have testified, and as the DNI's annual threat assessment has made clear, these challenges are evolving quickly. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea seek to undermine, if not outright challenge, the United States' interest and leadership in the world. I am encouraged that many of these threats are addressed in part by the National Security Supplemental that Congress passed 2 weeks ago. This bill was long overdue, but we cannot overstate its importance. Even in our most conflicted moments, the world looks to the United States for leadership. Our allies rely on us for fortitude, and our adversaries hope for us to falter. By finally passing the National Security Supplemental, Congress sent a powerful message to the world. The legislation demonstrates that we stand resolutely with our allies and partners, and that America's interests and safety won't be challenged by dictators or bullies. For the Ukrainians, the bill would provide critical weapons, ammunition, and combat vehicles to revitalize their heroic fight for freedom. Vladimir Putin must be stopped, both for the sake of Ukraine's survival and the security of all Americans. As the annual threat assessment warns, Putin has repeatedly said that if he succeeds in Ukraine, he intends to, quote, reunify other former Soviet states. This will almost certainly involve direct military conflict with a NATO country, requiring the United States to send our own men and women into harm's way. Director Haynes, General Cruz, I would ask for your assessment of the Ukraine conflict in the larger context of the evolving international order. I hope you will also address the extent to which Russian and Chinese efforts are aligning under their so-called No Limits Partnership and potential implications for U.S. national security. As we know, China is watching us closely, and the supplemental aid package will serve as an important deterrent to President Xi's aggressive ambitions in the Indo-Pacific and around the world. For several decades, the People's Liberation Army has studied the United States way of war and focused its efforts on countering our advantages. China has invested in offsetting technologies like anti-access and area denial systems, artificial intelligence, hypersonics, and of course, nuclear weapons. Further, China has leveraged a combination of military and civil power against its neighbors, including statecraft, economic pressure, coercion, and deception. Beijing has sought ways to achieve its national objectives while avoiding a direct confrontation with the United States military. Just as Chinese leaders have studied our way of war, we need to study theirs. With that in mind, I would ask our witnesses for their assessment of how China is evolving its competitive strategies and objectives. I would also appreciate an update on what military and non-military factors are most likely to impact Chinese decision-making with respect to potential coercive actions against Taiwan and other regional partners. Finally, in the Middle East, I'm concerned that we face a uniquely dangerous moment. With Israel and Hamas engaged in a violent conflict in Gaza, Iran is seeking to exploit the chaos as an opportunity to force the United States out of the region. Iran appears to have calculated that the best strategy to achieve this is by directing its proxy forces to attack American, Israeli, and allied interests in the Middle East. The Iranian-linked Houthi rebels in Yemen have launched hundreds of drones and missile attacks against U.S. and international vessels in the Red Sea and even further, disrupting nearly 15% of global commercial trade, driving up costs and inflation around the world. The National Security Supplemental will equip U.S. forces with the resources they need to protect our service members and international shipping lanes, and will help Israel defend itself from vicious attacks from Iran, Hamas, and other violent groups. Just as importantly, it will provide critical humanitarian aid to Palestinians caught in the crossfire. I would appreciate our witnesses' perspectives on these complex challenges. Thank you again to our witnesses. I look forward to your testimony. As a reminder for my colleagues, there will be a closed session immediately following this hearing in room SVC 217. Let me now turn to Ranking Member Wicker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Today's hearing is a chance for the committee to hear the intelligence community's assessment of the many threats that our country faces. I regularly hear from our nation's top uniformed and civilian personnel. Their testimony makes it clear to me that the United States faces a troubling threat environment and that the situation urgently requires American leadership. Armed conflict is raging in multiple theaters. Regional instability is on the rise. Violent Islamic terrorism is expanding. Several of our principal adversaries are deepening their cooperation, forming a new axis of evil and striving to reshape the geopolitical order. We have reached a pivotal moment in history. The decisions we make this year will have far-reaching implications for our national security. It is disturbing to me that the intelligence community seems unable to give our national security officials or the American public an answer about the size of the Chinese defense budget. That said, we do know that our principal adversary, Communist China, has announced another 7.2% increase to its defense budget for 2024. I would like our witnesses to articulate a plan for how they will answer this question, a plan that involves more than one full-time analyst working on the problem, as is currently the case. No matter the exact size of the Chinese budget, we see with our own eyes, in public and in classified settings, the scope and scale of the Chinese military modernization. If we hope to maintain deterrence or win a fight, we will need the military and the intelligence community to work more closely together than they ever have. To that end, I would like to understand what specific policies the intelligence community has changed to enable a more effective targeting process for the military. Beijing is leading that increasingly integrated axis of countries bent on undermining United States interest. This new alignment of cooperation among China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea is a greater menace than we have faced in decades. I do not believe the American people have a sufficient understanding of the danger. Many of us do not know the ways in which these adversaries are working together to make Americans, our allies, and our partners less safe. I hope our witnesses can comment with specific examples about this new threat. The National Security Supplemental Congress passed supplemental that Congress passed last week is an important and historic step in the right direction, as the chairman just stated. It was necessary, but it is insufficient. We have much more work to do to restore our industrial base to a wartime footing, to strengthen our allies, and to get innovative technologies into the hands of our service members. We do all of this because we hope to prevent a war from ever coming to pass. So I thank our witnesses for their service to the country and for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Wicker. Director Haynes, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman Reed, Ranking Member Wicker, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to be here alongside my wonderful colleague, General Cruz, the Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, to present the IC's annual threat assessment. Before I start, I want to thank publicly the people of the intelligence community, from the collector to the analyst and everybody in between. We are presenting the result of their labor at this hearing. They work tirelessly every day to support our military, to keep our country safe and prosperous, and we are proud to represent them. Today, the United States faces an increasingly complex and interconnected threat environment characterized by really three categories of challenges. The first is an accelerating strategic competition with major authoritarian powers that are actively working to undermine the rules-based order and the open international system, which the United States and our partners rely on for trade, for commerce, and for the free flow of information. And the second category is a set of more intense and unpredictable transnational challenges, such as cybersecurity, terrorism, climate change, narcotics trafficking, and health security that often interact with traditional state-based political, economic, and security challenges.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is it, the culmination of everything our young athlete has worked for these past months. He's filled with determination. You can see it in his face. Is today the day he overcomes? And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's on fire. Nothing can stop him. Watch him as he heads towards the goal. Oh, he's blocked hard. But that doesn't stop him. He's a warrior. He's back up. His eyes are on the goal. He's set up for the shot. He shoots. Goal!
Achieving goals like this is only possible with the monthly support of people just like you.
Please call the number on your screen right now and give your monthly support to Shriners Hospitals for Children so other children can reach their goals too.
If you give just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we will send you your very own Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of the love you're giving us. Because of monthly support of people like you, nothing is stopping me from achieving my goals.
And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's going left. Oh, he fakes right and continues. Look at those moves. He takes the shot. Goal! Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to give right away. Your monthly gift helps kids achieve their goals. Goal!
I'm Iris Tao at the White House, and we are NTD.
Welcome back. We're continuing our coverage of a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing on worldwide U.S. security threats.
Leaders from the intelligence community are testifying about the threats to U.S. national security from a slew of sources around the world.
Let's watch.
That there was no evidence that Israel was committing genocide in Gaza or committing war crimes in Gaza. Do each of you agree with that?
I certainly have no evidence that that's the case, but the fact is, in the intelligence community, we don't make that kind of determination. That's a legal determination made by others in the U.S. government.
And I would echo that answer.
Okay. So you have no intelligence that Israel is committing genocide or war crimes. So you don't have any evidence that they are.
As I said, sir, we just don't make that determination. What we do is we identify the intelligence as we see it, and we give it to others who would make that kind of determination.
Okay. So we've watched what's happened on a lot of our college campuses like Columbia, UCLA, even here in D.C. at George Washington University. Do you have any intel of outside countries or groups funding some of these violent protests that are going on around the country?
Thanks, sir. We've yet to see intelligence that Hamas, which is generally how the question is framed to us, is actually influencing the Gaza-related protests occurring in the United States or directing it in any way. That doesn't mean that over time we will not gather intelligence that indicates that certainly, for example, I would expect other countries to take advantage of the opportunity and use it as part of influence operations. But we'll continue to monitor that.
General Cruz.
The same thing. I don't believe we've seen exactly what you're asking, but I would anticipate the environment would be an opportunity that others would take advantage of.
Okay. How about Qatar? Have you seen any evidence that they're supporting these protests?
No, sir.
Okay. A couple weeks ago, the head of Space Command asked him a question: if 12 of our satellites were destroyed and all the debris was up there, how much of an impact would it have on the rest of our satellites that we depend on, and how would it impact our ability to defend ourselves? So have you done any intelligence briefings that you believe this is a risk, not a risk?
So this is one of these things where it's so case dependent. In other words, just having debris in space is always a problem, and one that obviously, ultimately allows for the potential damage of not just national security interests, but also commercial and other interests that are effectively facilitated by space. But where the debris occurs makes a difference. And so how much of an impact it would have would matter upon where it is, what other satellites are in the region, what satellites have been destroyed, for example. All of those things are important. And we can talk further in closed session, I think, about some of the modeling that we've done that might be helpful to you.
General Cruz?
I would just add the other part of the calculus there is which 12 satellites in this scenario would be taken out, and there's a capability reduction that is also a decrement that we'd be very much concerned about. But purely to the debris question, I agree there's been some modeling done that we could discuss.
How big a risk do you think it is on ingredients in our drugs from China for our military? Either of you?
I don't know that I know enough about that topic to be able to speak on that, and I'd be more than happy to work with our analysts to see if we have an answer for you that would be useful for you.
Does it surprise you guys that so many of the ingredients in our drugs are coming from China when they're at the same time trying to kill Americans through fentanyl and everything else, and that our military is still relying on a majority of our, I think it's a majority of our drugs, ingredients are coming from China?
I don't believe that I'm surprised by how the market has developed over years and decades, and then where we find ourselves today. As the environment wants us to withdraw, there is a supply chain that we will have to modify, to implement the policies you're talking about. But certainly, you've accurately described how the market has developed and how our supply chains currently work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Good to see you both. I want to just acknowledge some amazing work that the U.S. military has done in two very challenging contexts recently. The U.S. effort to support Israel, together with other nations, during the attack from Iran was truly a superb operation. And I don't think that kind of thing happens by accident or by chance. It demonstrates an awful lot of training, an awful lot of capacity, an awful lot of cooperation. And had we not been successful in that, the level of escalation that we might have seen in the region, the damage to Israeli cities, communities, people, the likely escalation thereafter could really have been devastating at a very critical time where the last thing we need is escalation in the Middle East. And so I just, at a hearing like this, I want to acknowledge the great service of U.S. military in forming together with Israel and other nations a defense against the Iranian attack. And second, the work that the U.S., primarily the Navy, but not solely the Navy, has done in the Red Sea to repel attacks by Houthis against commercial ships, military ships. Again, in tandem with allies, but most of the work is being, the hard work, the kinetic hostile fire is being taken by U.S. military has been truly remarkable. And the remarkable thing, and I know this has got to keep you guys up every night, is when we are sitting there in the Red Sea and absorbing incoming over and over and over again, we have to have 100% success rate. It can't be 98, can't be 99%. My understanding is it's been 100% up to now. I don't want to jinx it, and we've been as close as 3,000 yards from striking a U.S. ship that we were able to take down with a Gatling gun. Some use of missiles has enabled us to take down incoming missiles or drones at further distance, but 3,000 yards is pretty close. And we've got a lot of Virginians on those ships in the Red Sea, and I know other members here have sailors from their states there too. So I want to start with that, and that it takes a lot of work to get to that. I mean, the development of the Aegis system goes back decades, and good intel, and using the intel well, both to defend but also to strike positions in Yemen that could do damage. I mean, I just want to express appreciation. I do want to focus on the Red Sea, and so let me begin with Director Haynes. What does the IC assess about the Houthis' continuing threat on commercial shipping, and how long is that threat likely to remain active?
Yeah, so our assessment is essentially that it is going to remain active for some time. It is in part because Abdul Malik, the leader of the Houthis, continues, we think, to see domestic political advantage for some of the actions that he's taking, that he is interested in kind of burnishing his regional reputation, and he has seen this to be adding to that in many respects, and that they continue to indigenously produce a fair amount of UAVs, other weapon systems, and so on, and of course are also getting assistance from the Iranians in this respect, and that neither of those things are likely to change in the near future. Now, that doesn't mean that the strikes that the Department of Defense and the coalition with our allies have taken haven't had impact. They have, but it's been insufficient to really stop the Houthis from going down this road. And so that is sort of our...
What's your assessment about if there were to be a ceasefire in Gaza? What's the likelihood that the pace of attacks would significantly reduce?
Yeah, it is honestly unknown at this stage. They have indicated that at different times that they would comply with the ceasefire. So I think there's a fair possibility that that is what.
And wasn't there some abatement of the pace of attacks into the Red Sea during the ceasefire?
That's exactly right. They did in the prior one. But it's just one of the things that's been challenging is that their rationale for their attacks has shifted over time a bit, and it's gotten more complicated at times. He's indicated that they wouldn't stop unless and until humanitarian assistance had been delivered to a certain degree, things like that. And so it seems like there are additional requirements that he's added, but it doesn't mean that he wouldn't pause during the ceasefire.
And even if the ceasefire, might under past rationale lead them to stop, to the extent that they feel like this is burnishing their reputation for being kind of a bad actor, they might continue even in a ceasefire condition.
Yeah, it's possible.
Last question. Why aren't more allies and members of the coalition helping the United States and actually taking military action against Houthis who are targeting their ships? I mean, we're protecting commercial ships of other nations. The number of nations that are participating in the military activity seems small to me. How should I understand that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start, and General Cruz may have more to add here. I think a number of them really are trying to help in any way that they can, and we've seen it come in different forms, and I would really defer to the Department of Defense in terms of the degree of it, but let me...
How about a quick answer since I'm over my time, General Cruz?
Sir, I think I would just add that to the DNI's point, many of them are contributing in other ways, and there are important ways, and while there's few that might be doing defense in the Red Sea, specifically, they're doing things that we actually count on, and we appreciate the partnership, but would welcome anyone else who would want to participate.
Great. Senator Cotton.
Senator Ernst raised the media reports that suggest President Biden may admit Gazans to this country as refugees. I agree with her. I think that would be insane. There's a reason why Egypt won't let them in, and Egypt is right on their border and speaks their language and has a vested interest in protecting itself from threats from Gaza. If they won't let them in, I don't think the United States should let them in either. But I want to focus now on the actual threats from the crisis at our southern border of actual migrants who have crossed in this country already. Director Haynes, FBI director, recently said the terrorist threat level that we're contending with right now is at a whole other level. Do you agree with Director Ray's assessment?
Yes, I think it's just absolutely the terrorist threat level is of grave concern, and we can obviously have discussions in closed sessions about what that means, but so I would agree with that.
How many illegal immigrants on the terror watch list have been caught at the southern border this year?
I believe, I don't remember the number exactly, and we can get you that. Many of them, as I recall it, are ones that came out of Colombia. We should give you.
I think the answer is 75. Do you think we pitched a perfect game at the border and caught every single migrant on the terror watch list trying to cross into our country?
No, but being on the terrorist watch list, meaning that if there is known or suspected terrorists or there's information that they may have had contact with, doesn't actually mean that they are all.
Okay, how many terrorists have tried to cross the southern border during the Biden administration's tenure?
Sir, I don't know that I can give you a precise
I think the answer is
number on
357. Again, do you think we pitched a perfect game for the last 3.5 years and got 357 out of 357? No, I don't think so. How many terrorists tried to cross the southern border during the 4 years of the Trump administration?
I don't know, sir.
I think the answer is 11. The Biden administration has also granted entry to more than 7,300 illegal aliens who are known as special interest aliens, which means they come from notorious terrorist breeding grounds like Uzbekistan, Syria, and Iran, and pose a potential national security risk. That number was based on data collected before Hamas's October 7th atrocity against Israel. Since then, do you think that there may be an even greater surge of Islamic extremists trying to cross our open southern border?
Can you repeat the question, sir?
The Biden administration had granted entry to more than 7,300 illegal aliens in the special interest alien category from places like Uzbekistan, Syria, and Iran, and that number came before the October 7th atrocity in Israel. Since then, do you think there might have been an even greater surge in Islamic extremists trying to cross our open southern border?
For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
Stay with us and we'll bring you more news in the next 2 hours.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
I didn't ask to lose my mother or to be abused at 5 years old. I didn't ask to be kicked out of my house with nowhere to go. I didn't ask for any of this. But I did ask for help, and Covenant House was there. Thanks to their love and support, and to generous people like you, I got what I needed to take control of my life.
For the young people who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations, Covenant House is there providing safety, hope, and a brighter future. Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. 1 in 10 young adults will experience homelessness this year. Your gift can help reach them when they need it most.
I didn't ask for my parents and my family to disown me. I didn't ask to end up in a homeless shelter. The beauty of it all is that I found Covenant House.
The need is overwhelming, but your monthly support will make sure no young person is ever turned away. Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today. If there's no Covenant House, where would I be today?
Your monthly gift is urgently needed to reach young people in communities like yours who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations. Show them they're loved and not alone. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome. Prediabetes does. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test today. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are today's top stories.
Former President Trump in court for another day of his New York criminal trial. He faces more fines in the gag order hearing today.
Police dismantle the anti-Israel encampment at UCLA and arrest protesters. See dramatic footage from early this morning.
An obscure Biden immigration policy may be vulnerable to exploitation. We'll hear from a fellow at the Center for Immigration Policy about the program and how it's hard to vet the migrants.
Georgia is taking matters into its own hands to tackle illegal immigration. The state's governor signed a new immigration enforcement law.
Google's antitrust trial is nearing the end, with the tech giant preparing to make closing remarks. Why it's accused of an unfair monopoly.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
We open with more updates on former President Trump's New York hush money trial. The judge is holding a hearing now on Trump's gag order. Trump commented on the trial as he entered the courtroom today.
We're down at the trial now, getting ready to spend another day in the courthouse, which is bogus trial that every leading authority on law says should never have been brought, that Alvin Bragg didn't want to bring it until the election happened and that he brought it. You just do know that this case could have been brought 8 years ago. Could have been brought 8 years ago. Instead, they wait and wait and wait. They know it's not a good case, and now it's turned out to be they've lost they have no case. They have no case.
The gag order hearing is about 4 remarks Trump made last week regarding his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, and the jury.
Prosecutors argue that Trump deliberately violated his gag order again and should be held in contempt. They say Trump's remarks are corrosive and create a, quote, air of menace.
Trump's lawyer argues that Trump should be able to respond to Cohen's attacks against him. The lawyer says Trump has to be able to speak as a presidential candidate.
Following the gag order hearing, witness testimony will resume with Keith Davidson taking the stand. He's the former lawyer for adult film actress Stormy Daniels and former Playboy model Karen McDougal.
And next we have the latest on the anti-Israel protests disrupting college campuses across the nation.
Police have entered UCLA and arrested protesters as the encampment turned violent in recent days.
Law enforcement officers entered the UCLA campus overnight, took down barricades, and used stun grenade to disperse the protesters.
This is after the university deemed the encampment unlawful and called in the police. The school sent a safety alert shortly before 3 a.m. local time, asking students to leave the area.
Hundreds of protesters defied orders to leave and formed human chains as police entered the campus. Footage from the scene shows violent clashes between protesters and police.
Some protesters were arrested, and police say there were no injuries after the encampment was dismantled. This White House immigration policy may be vulnerable to exploitation by criminals. It's called CHNV Parole, which stands for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. Critics say it can lead to human trafficking and more. To help us understand it, we're joined by Andrew Arthur, fellow in law and policy at the Center for Immigration Studies. He's also a former immigration judge. Good to have you, Andrew. To start with, what is CHNV Parole and why is it facing scrutiny right now?
CHNV Parole is a program that the Biden administration implemented back in January of 2023 to bring 30,000 nationals of Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to the United States each month on parole. So it's roughly about 360,000 people per year. Those people don't have to be at the southwest border. They can fly directly to the United States from whatever country they're in, be it their home country or any other country on the face of the earth. So it completely bypasses the border. But the idea behind it is that those people would otherwise cross the border illegally. That's sort of a questionable proposition, but that's the basis of the Biden administration's logic for doing it.
Now, these people are supposed to be given, their parole period will last for 2 years, but what happens after that parole period?
So it's interesting because the website never mentions the fact that they're supposed to leave at the end of that 2-year period. And by law, that's what's supposed to happen. Instead, it tells people who have entered on CHNB parole that they may be eligible for some other lawful pathway, that there might be temporary protected status for their country, or that they might otherwise legalize in the United States. But under the parole statute, those folks are all supposed to be returned to custody, and they're all supposed to be removed at the end of that 2-year parole period.
Now, this law is specifically for nationals of Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. The U.S. doesn't exactly have great diplomatic relationships with these countries. How does that impact security vetting for this parole law?
Yeah, security vetting with this population of people is impossible. Right now, Haiti doesn't actually have a government, and Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela all have social governments that are openly, or socialist governments that are openly hostile to the United States. So the information that we get from those 3 countries is only as good as any information we may have ourselves, which isn't a lot, or alternatively, whatever they're going to tell us about those people. And you can understand the 3 countries that are openly hostile to the United States probably aren't going to be forthcoming about any bad information that they may have.
What other kinds of concerns do you have about this policy?
So the biggest concern that I have about this policy are the 2 that you've talked about. One, there's no way to force those people to leave at the end of the 2-year period. So basically, the Biden administration is bypassing Congress's limits on immigration and running an additional 360,000 people a year into the United States. And 2, there's no way to ensure that those individuals don't have criminal histories, don't have mental health issues or physical health issues, and that they may actually pose a danger to the United States. Venezuela is very closely aligned with Cuba, and Cuba definitely is no friend of the United States.
Is there anything that can be done to counteract the fallout from this law while it's still in effect?
Yeah, right now there are a group of states led by Texas that are suing in-state court in Texas to end this program. The first round of that didn't go in Texas's favor, but they've asked the judge to reconsider, and they'll probably be more successful at the Fifth Circuit, even if they're not successful at the district court level. But this program has actually drawn a lot of attention from members of Congress. It's been going on for, as I mentioned, more than a year. And yet it's only been in the last couple of months after President Trump made a speech about it following Super Tuesday. The members of Congress have clued into the fact that this program is going on. There is one other impact, and this one's fiscal. Nationals of Cuba and Haiti are automatically eligible for Medicaid as soon as they land in the United States. They're also eligible for other means-tested public benefits. Other immigrants have to wait 5 years to be eligible for those things. So this is going to impose a huge cost on the states that those individuals are going to. And we know that 2 of the biggest states right now are Florida and Texas, which are destinations for those folks.
All right, Andrew Arthur, Fellow in Law and Policy at the Center for Immigration Studies. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
To score political points. But this isn't a moment for politics. It's a moment for clarity. So let me be clear. Peaceful protest in America. Violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is. It's against the law when violence occurs. Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest. Threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Dissent is essential to democracy, but dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the rights of others so students can finish the semester and their college education. Look, it's basically a matter of fairness. It's a matter of what's right. There's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos. People have the right to get an education, the right to get a degree, the right to walk across the campus safely without fear of being attacked. But let's be clear about this as well. There should be no place on any campus, no place in America for anti-Semitism or threats of violence against Jewish students. There is no place for hate speech or violence of any kind, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or discrimination against Arab Americans or Palestinian Americans. It's simply wrong. There's no place for racism in America. It's all wrong. It's un-American. I understand people have strong feelings and deep convictions. In America, we respect the right and protect the right for them to express that. But it doesn't mean anything goes. It needs to be done without violence, without destruction, without hate, and within the law. You know, make no mistake, as president, I will always defend free speech, and I will always be just as strong in standing up for the rule of law. That's my responsibility to you, the American people, and my obligation to the Constitution. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, have the protests forced you to reconsider any of the policies with regard to the region?
No. Thank you.
Mr. President, do you think the National Guard should intervene?
No.
Do you agree with
That was President Joe Biden delivering remarks about the college campus protests regarding Israel and the war in Gaza. Moving on, Georgia is now the latest state to enact legislation against illegal immigration. Governor Brian Kemp signed a new immigration enforcement law aimed at bolstering public safety.
The governor signed around 10 new measures into law yesterday. He says they serve to counteract lawlessness, boost recruitment of police officers, and make communities safer.
One of the bills requires law enforcement to check the immigration status of some individuals. That includes people who are arrested or detained and those who might have committed a crime.
If the person is in the country illegally, police must then notify federal authorities.
This comes as conservative states across the country have implemented laws targeting illegal immigration, including Florida, Louisiana, and Oklahoma.
And over half of all states are suing the Biden administration. That's over a new rule regarding background checks for gun purchases. Under the new law, almost every gun transfer would require one party to have a federal firearms license. That party also has to perform a criminal background check. This includes private sales.
The rule changes the requirement for determining whether a person is engaged in the business of selling guns. The defining characteristic used to be whether the person sells guns to earn a livelihood. This would now be changed to earn a profit.
The new law is set to take effect next week. Attorneys general from 26 conservative states filed at least 3 lawsuits. They argue the rule violates certain laws and the U.S. Constitution. Coming up, the landmark monopoly trial between the DOJ and Google is now approaching an end after months of deliberation and courtroom battles. Where the case stands now.
And what factors could be fueling some of your money woes? Senators want to know. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
I have never seen a production any better than this, anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
Invigorating. It was encouraging. Gave me hope.
This has just been therapy for the soul.
It's a must-see. Must-see.
Make sure you see it. Make sure you see it.
Coming to Lincoln Center, NJ Pack, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. ShenYun.com.
I started having lumbar pain, and the pain was terrific. Called the number. She was asking me very thorough questions, and it was like a done deal.
I have a pain on the back, and the pain on the back goes towards your hip, and then goes to the side of the leg, side of the calf, and the foot. And the foot is numb.
And he pointed, he says, if we don't correct this now, you will be in pain the rest of your life.
Carol was wheeled across the parking lot to the on-campus imaging center for updated MRIs.
Immediately after that, left that building, got back over here. He was in there and had the results of that on the screen.
We're gonna go between this, and this. That is going to get you almost brand new, okay?
All right, back to my active self.
Yeah. No pain.
No pain.
No pain here.
No.
No pain here.
No.
No pain on the foot.
No.
No pain on the side.
No.
No pain on the side.
No.
No pain on the butt.
No. When I came out of that, they said my whole face, everything was different. I am a new person. Oh, a new person, Dr. Bonatti. And you told me I would be. I said, I'm not in pain. I'm in awe. And I'm going home restored.
Bonatti succeeds where others fail. For more stories like these and the rest of our program, check out American Medicine Today, featuring cutting-edge medical and science innovators and a medical professional's insight on political and social issues plaguing our nation and healthcare. American Medicine Today, Saturdays 6 and Sundays at 9 on NTD Television and other streaming platforms.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
See, Smokey thinks I'm funny.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
And joining us now is NTD's Business Matters host, Don Ma, to give us the latest updates from the tech and business world.
Don Ma, good to see you. What do you have for us today?
Well, Chris, it's good to see you as well. Steph, of course. So let's start off with Google and what's happening here. So the U.S. government is going to lay out its antitrust case against Alphabet's Google in closing arguments later today and tomorrow as well. So this would wrap up a trial in which Google was accused of breaking the law to stay on top, keeping its position there as the top dog. So the U.S. government arguing Google here is a monopolist and illegally abused its power to favor its bottom line. And this case was the first of 5 aimed at reining in the market power of tech leaders. So not just Google, but Meta as well, and among others. So in the non-jury trial, the judge will weigh whether Google violated the law and will later look at any punishment. That is, if it is needed. Witnesses from Verizon, Android maker Samsung Electronics, and Google itself testified about the company's annual payments over $26 billion, that is in 2021. And all this is to ensure that its search is on the default of smartphones and browsers. So in turn, Google argued that the government was wrong to allege it broke the law to hold on to its massive market share. So Google said its search engine is popular not because of what it did, but other than the fact of its quality, and that users are using it because that it is the best in their opinion. All
right, and next, you've got some news on Peloton. They've reported earnings today. So what have you got to tell us about that?
Yeah, so Peloton missed Wall Street expectations a little bit here. And as well, it looks like Peloton CEO McCarthy is stepping down here. So the company said today, as it announced a 15% cut to its global workforce due to a post-pandemic slump in demand for its connected fitness equipment. And it also aims to pair its retail presence, potentially forcing Peloton to again push back its goal of returning to positive cash flow here. So a former Netflix and Spotify executive, McCarthy, the CEO here, took the helm back in 2022 from founder John Foley and has taken several steps to cut costs. But it seems like Peloton has discovered so far that fitness trends, they come and go, and staying ahead of the curve, very difficult here.
All right, Don Ma, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Caleb, and this is my story. I was born with osteogenesis imperfecta, or brittle bone disease. I have broken my bones almost 200 times, and I have had 11 surgeries. But I didn't let that stop me. I love to bike ride, climb, race, and I'm learning how to stand and walk. But I can only do all of this because of generous people like you and Shriners Hospitals for Children.
Because of people like you, Shriners Hospitals for Children has helped more than 1.3 million kids just like me, regardless of their family's ability to pay.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is only able to provide this world-class, life-changing medical care because of the generous gifts of people just like you.
Because of you, I can ride my bike. I can play basketball.
Because of people like you, I can run.
I can smile.
Will you send your love to the rescue today?
When you go to loveshriners.org right now and give just 63 cents a day, you're helping kids just like me.
Like me. Like me.
When you give today, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of the love you gave to a kid just like me.
Your gift, no matter how small, can help a child today.
This is your moment to make a difference.
When you pick up your phone, you know you have it right there, and call to give. You're helping kids like me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, please call again or give right away at loveshriners.org.
Your gift makes a difference. Thank you for giving.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang green vegetable omega-3, greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
We're in the nation's capital asking the important questions so that you're in the know. Join us daily, Monday through Friday, on the Capitol Report on NTD News.
Welcome back. We just had a tech glitch, but we will be tuning into a hearing about what factors could be influencing your pocketbook and what can be done about it.
Senators on the Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee are looking for answers today with a focus on the potential effects of shrinkflation and technology. Let's tune in.
Companies use advances in technology to find new methods of price gouging. They're now using new pricing strategies and data collection to charge more. They call these tactics dynamic pricing and personalized pricing algorithms. Dynamic pricing, personalized pricing. You know, some corporate PR firm is really proud of those terms. Customers don't want their pricing personalized. They want it to be fair. They want it to be transparent. They want it to be as low as possible. Gone are the days when Americans simply could walk into a store having a clear idea of what they were about to pay. It's not just the act of walking into a brick and mortar store that's nostalgic. It's the notion of predictable, transparent prices. With online retailers, the price can change every day or even within the hour, sometimes dramatically. They spread the technique to brick and mortar stores, adding electronic menu boards to restaurants and digital price labels to shelves so the corporation can raise the price at a moment's notice. It's frustrating. It makes it impossible for people to compare prices and shop around. Key ingredients in any fair, open market. Families with fixed budgets can't afford to walk into the grocery store, into a pharmacy, not knowing how far their paycheck will get them. Big tech has exported their data mining business model to retailers, and that has made all of this even easier for companies. As more people shop online, retailers learn more about browsing and shopping habits all of us have by collecting every bit of our online data. They can charge you more based on your search history. You start shopping around to try to find the lowest price on a new washing machine, Online retailers realize you're in the market for appliances, start showing you higher and higher prices, spying on people, charging them more for the products they need. It's not innovation, it's price gouging. Charging more for food during mealtime isn't free market, it's exploitation. The story's all the same, always the same. Whether you use old tricks or new technologies, corporations win, the rest of us typically lose. That's not how free markets are supposed to work. It's why standing up to corporate interests matter. And why it matters. And people hate Washington. People hate Washington because too many politicians in this town over and over and over do corporations' bidding. Took us more than a decade of fighting the drug companies and their lobbyists and their allies in Congress to finally lower drug prices and to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. Almost nothing we've done elicits the kind of reception that I get when I talk about lowering the price, capping the price of insulin at $35. Yet look how hard it was in this country because so many of my colleagues were doing the bidding of corporate interests, doing the bidding of big pharma, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. But consumers had a victory when we capped the price of insulin at $35. We need members of Congress to grow spines and stand up to more of these corporate lobbyists. Senator Casey and I have a bill to crack down on companies shrinking their products and raising their prices by directing the FTC to label this what it really is, and that is a deceptive practice. We need our colleagues to join us in efforts like this to lower prices, to stop these tactics that distort the market and stifle competition and make it harder for Americans to afford the cost of living. Thank you, Member Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here with us this morning. Listening to our chairman, Democrats would have Americans believe that the economic pain they're feeling is caused by greedy corporations putting a few less chips in your chip bag. It couldn't be more clear where the obvious pain is coming from. The obvious pain is coming from a guy who lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The bottom line is that President Biden and Bidenomics has devastated our economy and devastated people working paycheck to paycheck. The highest percentage of Americans with the fewest dollars in their savings account for an emergency is now because of President Biden and Democrats' reckless spending. They like to name their bills in attractive ways, but the bottom line is a very simple thing. They all add to inflation, whether it's the American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, or the worst named bill perhaps in American history, the Inflation Reduction Act. Anyone who believes that inflation has gone down because of the Inflation Reduction Act, all you have to do is look at the latest information coming out of the Federal Reserve itself. Inflation continues to increase. These bills used to be hailed positively as a part of Bidenomics, but now they're just economics because no one can afford President Biden's approach to solving the problems that we see in our nation. And I know this to be true because it doesn't matter whether I'm at home in South Carolina or any other state around the country, I keep hearing the same things from consumers. Rent is too high. I'll never be able to afford a mortgage. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. My grocery bills are staggering and I can barely afford them. Or I spent my entire life working and building up enough savings just to retire. But now I'm worried that those savings won't go far enough and I'll have to go back to work. Or I'm really worried about my finances and our economy. And they always end with a simple question: what can you do to help me? The number one concern, besides the devastation that Americans are experiencing because of an unsafe, insecure, wide open southern border, the number one concern outside of that border is the economy. And Americans across the country point their fingers at the devastation of inflation. Inflation today is costing the average American family an additional $8,508 just to buy the same things they were able to buy before President Biden took office. It is truly unfortunate that the Biden administration continues to play a game of deflection, not taking responsibility, not solving the problem, but looking for someone else to blame other than the man in the mirror. First, the Biden administration told us that the challenges that we were seeing with inflation was transitory. I cannot tell you the number of hearings I sat through, whether it was Secretary Yellen or others, who said that this is transitory because of COVID. Well, then they changed the story that it was a Putin's price hike because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Then it was greedflation or shrinkflation. The fact of the matter is simply Biden's inflation. Here's the truth. The Biden administration's spending policies has caused the inflation that we're seeing and the economic devastation it is producing. They are the key contributors to the price hikes we are all experiencing today. Let's take a step back to understand what inflation really feels like to the average American. Prices across the board have certainly increased nearly 20% since Biden took office. Yes, 20% increase in just over 3 years. For example, butter's up 27%, chicken 26%, white bread 30%. When you go to the pump, you don't have to believe what President Biden says about the challenges. All you have to do is see the price at the pump, 40% increase. Energy costs, 25% increase. I could spend the rest of my time this morning discussing other examples of how much prices have increased. But the American people know all too well that the challenges that they face and where it comes. That's why they trust him so little on the economy. It is crystal clear. They know what they see with their own eyes. Yet, instead of looking at ways we can bring inflation down, this administration continues to look for scapegoats, such as corporate America. But here's what the Federal Reserve recently studied. The administration, and that's the Federal Reserve, studied the administration's claims that corporations are driving up inflation and came to the conclusion, and I'll just read it, unprecedented large and direct government intervention and accommodative monetary policy. Profits were back to their pre-pandemic levels by the end of 2022. With respect to shrinkflation, the Biden administration's own BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, reported that its effects have resulted in a 0.01% average annual increase to prices and has a very small impact on the overall inflation picture. I know this is really uncomfortable for some of you to listen to it, but that's just called the facts. What we should be talking about today is the direct harm this administration's policies are causing as they continue to lead to more inflation. We should be talking about the inflation spike we are likely to see after billions and billions of dollars in student loans are illegally forgiven by this administration. We should be talking about a federal debt that is growing by trillions of dollars every single year. The American people are smart. They see through this blatant attempt by this administration to blame others for the inevitable results of their policies. It's time for the Biden administration and their friends on the other side of the aisle to wake up, smell the coffee that now costs 30% more. Out of control, reckless spending led to runaway inflation that has remained elevated for years now. We must all accept the fact and return to sound economic policies that make affording the basics just a bit easier for the American family. With that, I yield back and look forward to asking some questions.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Welcome the three witnesses to the committee. Mr. Bilal Baidoun is the Director of Policy and Research at Groundwork Collaborative. Mr. Baidoun has served as a senior advisor in several government organizations, including the city of Dearborn, Michigan. He holds a Master of Public Policy from the University of Michigan. Dr. Allison Schrager is a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. She's an economist, contributing editor at City Journal, co-founder of Life Cycle Finance Partners. Dr. Schrager is an undergraduate degree from the University of Edinburgh and a PhD in economics from Columbia University. Dr. Schrager, welcome. Mr. Ali Bustamante is the director of Worker Power and Economic Security Program at the Roosevelt Institute. Dr. Bustamante is an expert on labor economics and public policy. Prior to joining Roosevelt, he served as chief economist at the Louisiana Workforce Commission. He received his BA and PhD from the University of Miami. Dr. Bustamante, welcome. Mr. Baidoon, please begin.
Thank you, Senator. Chairman Brown, Ranking Member Scott, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Bilal Baidoon. I'm the Director of Policy and Research at the Groundwork Collaborative, an economic think tank based here in Washington. The modern price tag was invented by John Wanamaker of Philadelphia, a devout Presbyterian who believed that if we were equal before God, we ought to be equal before price. And so from the very beginning, the price tag was infused with a sense of fairness and equality. Yet in America today, a fair price, let alone a sweet deal, is harder and harder to come by. In the age of corporate concentration and high-powered algorithms, pricing is in the midst of a troubling transformation, and the price tag as we know it may become a relic of the past. Rideshare apps like Uber have reportedly charged users higher prices if their phone battery was lower. Insurance companies fly drones above our property in search of signs of clutter, and car companies install software that reports our driving behavior to insurance companies, who use the data to hike our rates. Amazon reportedly changes prices millions of times per day, while running secret price hiking experiments like Project Nessie that reaped $1 billion in revenue. Frustratingly, food delivery apps like Uber Eats show us one menu price up front, only to tack on mysterious junk fees right at checkout. In a practice known as shrinkflation, companies discreetly reduce the size or volume of common household items, everything from jars of peanut butter to bars of soap, to charge consumers more for less. All of these tactics converge on a single goal: find out the maximum price that individual consumers are willing to pay. In competitive markets, companies often have to innovate, outwork the competition, and improve products and services in order to keep customers happy. But a perfect storm in our economy made it much easier for companies to simply price their way to record profits. First, companies have gotten bigger. About 3/4 of domestic industries have become more concentrated and are dominated by fewer players than they were 20 years ago. This grants the remaining large firms the freedom to hike prices without fear of being undercut by the competition. Second, pricing has gone high-tech. Technological advances such as cloud computing, AI, and surveillance targeting have enabled companies to collect reams of personal information on consumers and change prices in under a nanosecond. These technologies help companies build profiles of individual customers that include things like our age, marital status, estimated salary, ethnicity, the magazines we read, and even the type of topics we discuss online. Finally, market power and technological advances came together in the shadow of inflation, giving companies the cover to roll out pricing strategies once thought to be too risky, precisely because consumers dislike them. But with prices rising everywhere, customers couldn't distinguish which hikes were due to rising costs and which were truly excessive. As a Barclays executive told Bloomberg in 2022, quote, "The longer inflation lasts and the more widespread it is, the more air cover it gives companies to raise prices," unquote. The complex algorithms entrusted with setting prices to maximize revenues have neither a conscience nor legal training, which is why algorithmic pricing can be both discriminatory and collusive. But we don't have to accept the end of a fair price as inevitable. We must continue to enforce current laws that outlaw collusion and unfair and deceptive practices, while also recognizing that algorithms can fix prices just as well as human agents can. But new laws are also necessary. The Price Gouging Prevention Act, introduced in this chamber, would enable the Federal Trade Commission to enforce a federal anti-price gouging statute. Likewise, the Shrinkflation Prevention Act would classify shrinkflation as a deceptive practice and empower the FTC to take civil action on behalf of consumers. We must also continue to eliminate junk fees and regulate complex pricing structures that push hidden fees on consumers. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's late fees rule demonstrates that policymakers can and must protect consumers from predatory fees. By capping late fees at $8, the CFPB will save American families more than $10 billion annually. Finally, we can't allow companies to harvest our data and use it to price discriminate against us. Protecting data privacy, including transactions data, is essential to confronting this new pricing regime and ensuring companies cannot surveil consumers while pushing arbitrary price hikes. There's no doubt we have the tools to restore a fair price in America. We just have to use them. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Badoon. Dr. Schrager.
Chairman Brown, Ranking Member Scott, and members of the committee, thank you for the invitation today. I'm a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, where I research fiscal and monetary policy and financial markets. I'm also a columnist at Bloomberg Opinion. And the high inflation environment we're in is a terrible economic burden for American households, especially those living paycheck to paycheck who are struggling to afford groceries, let alone enjoy the occasional meal out with their family. And it's tempting to blame whoever raised the price we see, the firms we buy goods and services from, who appear to be getting rich off of our bills. But they are not at fault. They are merely reacting to the realities of the high, uncertain inflation environment we are all facing. In order to bring inflation down, we need to understand it, how it started, and why it persists. History has shown that misdiagnosing the problem and then implementing misguided policies will only create more harm for American households. And my testimony explains how we got here and why inflation remains high. But the main reason it's remaining high is we're still in an elevated, high-demand environment, and that is made worse by stimulative fiscal policy. Inflation, though, cannot be blamed on greedy corporations. First, there's no reason to think that corporations have just suddenly become greedy. It is natural to increase prices when you're facing a period of high demand. Take the example of an umbrella salesman in the rain. It does feel really unfair that he increases his price when it rains, but if he didn't increase prices when it starts to sprinkle, there'll be no umbrellas left when there is a downpour. Or if he can't make more money in the rain, why would he bother sitting in the rain himself and sell umbrellas? We see a similar story playing out in markets today. Prices are increasing because demand is still high. We see consumer spending is still up. We see a rather very tight and vigorous labor market, and GDP, particularly around demand focusing, are still growing. And prices do rise when demand is high, and this price adjustment is how markets ration goods. It is true that there was an increase in profits in 2021 when inflation first spiked, but profits peaked in 2021 and have since fallen and leveled off. One way to understand what happened is that initially, firms raised prices in response to increased demand and the limited supply coming out of the pandemic. But just like that umbrella salesman, they increased price and reduced that higher demand. Now, at first, the cost of their inputs did not go up as much, in part because firms had existing contracts. But as time went on, they had to renegotiate those contracts and gave many of their employees raises. And then profit margins declined. So in addition to just increasing prices, firms might instead just shrink the volume of the product they sell, but keep prices the same. This is shrinkflation. It's like fewer potato chips in a bag. But this is just another way for firms to increase prices. And again, I see why this is extremely frustrating to customers. They are getting less and paying more. But it is really just another way to pass along high price increase of the sort of overall high demand environment we have and rising input costs. You know, whether or not increasing prices or increasing the volume of the good is better, it really is sort of hard to say. But it's important to understand that sometimes just charging more reduces sort of more people from buying the good altogether. Now, dynamic pricing is another way that you can increase prices, and this is just increasing prices for consumers, not others, and particularly consumers who are more willing and able to pay more. Wendy's recently attempted this when they floated the idea of charging more during peak times. But an example of dynamic pricing that predates.
Coming up, the State Department is urging China and Russia to make a declaration about nuclear weapons. Find out what it has to do with artificial intelligence.
And lawmakers in the Solomon Islands pick a new prime minister, how the move could push the Pacific Island nation closer to China. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms, but then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side and my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
The tempting online world is encroaching on our campus. Is unplugging cables and confiscating phones the solution to protect our children? No, we just need a clean multimedia platform. Join Ganjing Campus to leverage premium channel features, professional development courses, and kindness event toolkits tailored for teachers. Build a truly positive and interactive classroom community. Foster a pure and delightful learning environment for children.
Freedom is not free, and neither is the truth. In order to bring you the facts, our reporters are out there on the front lines getting the true story. Some of them served 10 years of prison in China. We've been censored on social media. Our Hong Kong printing offices were set on fire, and we've been repeatedly attacked by the Chinese Communist Party. But no matter what, we believe that you deserve the truth, and so we'll continue to bring the truth to light. Head on over to getepic.com and try honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Want to know what's really happening around the world? Join us for a deep dive discussion with our expert panel on International Reporters Roundtable.
Washington is urging China and Russia to declare that only humans and never artificial intelligence would make decisions on deploying nuclear weapons. The U.S., France, and Britain have all made what the State Department called a clear and strong commitment on the matter. That's according to State Department Arms Control Office official Paul Dean's remarks earlier today. He also said declaring humans have total control over nuclear weapons is a, quote, extremely important norm of responsible behavior.
As of now, Beijing hasn't responded to a request for comment. President Biden has been trying to communicate with China on both nuclear weapons policy and the growth of artificial intelligence.
Zooming in on Russia, last year, Russian President Vladimir Putin suspended a key nuclear arms deal with the U.S. The START treaty allowed Russia and the U.S. to inspect nuclear facilities as an effort to limit the other's nuclear arsenal.
In southern China, the death toll from a highway collapse has doubled, and the highway had just undergone safety checks during the flood season.
The death toll now stands at 48, but it could drop top 50 as there are 3 other people who remain unidentified awaiting DNA testing. Beijing has a history of covering up disaster data, so the numbers here remain unverified.
Today, the head of the Chinese Communist regime, Xi Jinping, instructed local authorities to maintain social stability. Many Chinese citizens are urging the authorities to conduct investigations into the construction companies.
Worth noting, the highway just undergone a safety check at the end of April. According to Chinese media reports, a section of the same highway also collapsed last April. And the Philippines says it has summoned a Chinese diplomat. Chinese vessels fired water cannons at Philippine ships near a disputed shoal in the South China Sea earlier this week.
In a statement today, the Philippines Foreign Ministry says it is protesting the harassment, ramming, swarming, shadowing and blocking, dangerous maneuvers, use of water cannons, and other aggressive actions of China's Coast Guard and maritime militia.
The nation is demanding the Chinese vessels leave the vicinity immediately. Japan is blocking views of the iconic Mount Fuji. Officials say it's to cope with tourists misbehaving and overcrowding. An 8-foot high and 60-foot wide black barrier is expected to be completed in just a couple weeks.
It's right next to a convenience store that sits across from the volcano and has become a photography hotspot. The crowds have led to complaints of littering and illegal parking.
The wall is the latest sign of Japan's struggle to accommodate an unprecedented surge in visitors. The increase comes amid a 34-year low in the nation's currency.
The weak yen has made Japan an irresistible bargain for travelers, which is good news for the economy. However, the surge has been creating tension with locals. And before we head to break, if you have any feedback, please email us at news.today@ntd.com.
And stay with us, we'll have more stories in just a moment.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
One in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. Fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting getfedupnow.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients, prevent children from dropping out of school, support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit getfedupnow.org.
Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome. Prediabetes does. One in 3 adults has prediabetes, and you could be one of them. There are usually no signs for prediabetes, so it's important to understand your risk. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed, and you can change the outcome. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test today. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org.
President Biden addresses anti-Israel college protests for the first time. Hear more about the stance he's taking.
A bipartisan effort to combat anti-Semitism and to keep Mike Johnson as House Speaker. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has the latest from Capitol Hill.
Former President Trump in court for another day of his New York criminal trial. He faces more fines in the gag order hearing today. Arlene Richards brings us the latest from outside the courtroom.
A recent poll reveals a big switch happening among Biden and Trump voters. A number of them are changing their colors.
Ukraine is working on multiple new security agreements, including one with the United States. What these new agreements will focus on.
And an update on the deadly highway collapse in southern China. The death toll has now risen to 48 and could be higher. We also have the reaction of local residents.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
We have the latest on the anti-Israel protests disrupting college campuses across the nation.
President Biden addressed the protests and encampments for the first time.
So let me be clear. Peaceful protest in America. Violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is. It's against the law when violence occurs. Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest. Threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law.
Biden said protesters on college campuses should be free to express their views, but should not devolve into trespassing or violence.
When asked about the response to such violence, Biden said he does not believe states should use the National Guard to intervene in the protests.
Biden said there's no place in America for anti-Semitism or Islamophobia, and that he's committed to defending free speech and the rule of law.
Biden's speech came as police make more arrests at college campuses from coast to coast, including 132 people at UCLA earlier this morning. Hundreds of police in riot gear pushed their way into a central plaza of the UCLA campus earlier today, like we're talking about. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on their actions to dismantle an anti-Israel protest camp.
The pre-dawn police crackdown at UCLA marked the latest flashpoint for mounting tensions on U.S. college campuses. Officers in full riot gear advance, batons extended, zip ties at their hip. A warning cry among the protesters rings out. A woman is taken into custody by police, yelling in support of Palestine as she's led away. Police rip down plywood as explosions ring out in the sky above. Here, a substance is sprayed at officers, who soon return fire. An anti-Israel protester is taken into custody.
I'm a student here. I'm an English major. Please, don't fail us. Don't fail us.
Chaotic scenes when police break through barriers erected by protesters. A police officer attempts to get a protester under control. Flashbang charges ring out. Smoke hangs thick in the air. Here, protesters with masks, hard hats, and metal poles stand off against police. Anti-Israel demonstrators scream angrily as police march downstairs past them. Dozens of loud explosions were heard during the clash, from flashbang charges or stun grenades fired by police. Some of the protesters had been seen donning hard hats, goggles, and respirator masks in anticipation of the siege, a day after the university declared the encampment unlawful. Prior to moving in, police urged demonstrators in repeated loudspeaker announcements to clear the protest zone. The zone consisted of a plaza about the size of a football field between the landmark Twin Tower Auditorium Royce Hall and the main undergraduate library. An initial group of Los Angeles police officers who briefly entered a corner of the camp were overwhelmed by demonstrators and forced to retreat, but reinforcements arrived by the busload about an hour later. Officials say the school will remain shuttered except for limited operations on Thursday and Friday. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
And joining us now to discuss is Jason Johnson, president of the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund. Jason, welcome. We've seen the footage. How do law enforcement officers prepare for and approach these kinds of situations? It just looks so chaotic.
Yeah, well, as you can imagine, this is extraordinarily difficult work for law enforcement officers. They're thrust into this position where they have to be adequately protected. You see the protective equipment that they're wearing, helmets and shields and whatnot. They also use chemical agents to sometimes move the protesters out of their position. Unfortunately, in this case at UCLA, these students have been in place for some time. They've been able to fortify their position by using wood and whatnot to create a fence around an area in hopes of preventing law enforcement from being able to remove them. Of course, law enforcement was able to overcome that and move students out of their way. But because they're in that fortified position, it certainly puts them in an advantage, and law enforcement officers have no way of knowing, for example, how many people are there, whether they have any makeshift weapons that might harm the police officers. They obviously are throwing objects at the officers, so they have to be prepared for that. So it is a chaotic situation. It is extraordinarily difficult for law enforcement.
Yeah, and you pointed to this fortification. We're seeing footage just now of umbrellas being used, and there's other structures that seem to have been brought in, as you mentioned. We've also seen fireworks blasting and reports of pepper spray use. What seems to be an organized strategy of action resisting police in some places. Does this mark a change from previous movements, would you say?
No, I mean, I think you see the same thing, whether it's in the summer of 2020, looking at George Floyd protests, to the tactics that are being used here. And I think that just sort of indicates that the tactics that are being used and the financing that is very clearly being deployed centrally, but through campuses throughout the country, using in some cases the same equipment, tents that appear very similar, garb, using students and others wearing Palestinian garb and with similar chants and similar content on their signs, to me just indicates that this is just another opportunity to wreak havoc on the public. Just 4 years ago, we saw it in similar fashion. The issues were different, but the tactics used were very much the same. And I suspect the funding source for both both rounds of riots and protests are the same.
And how are police trained to deal with various forms of resistance while also balancing the need to uphold public safety and protect individuals' rights to protest?
Yeah, well, individuals do have the right to peacefully and lawfully protest, and that does not include taking and seizing college campuses where people have paid significant amounts of money in tuition to go and learn. For those students who want to learn, they have a right to learn as well, and their rights to learn in peace and safety outweigh the rights of those who would violate the law in order to make a political point. And so there are time, place, and manner restrictions that are legitimate that can be imposed by campuses. Unfortunately, campus administrators are fearful of enforcing those time, place, and manner restrictions and upholding the rights of students who are there to learn. And that puts law enforcement, again, in a very precarious place, because law enforcement really can't get involved until campus administrators invite them to get involved and allow them to clear their campuses and restore order. So they wait until, as we see here in the case of UCLA, those students are in a fortified position. They've been able to bring all of that wood and other things, tents and everything else onto the campus, completely unabated by any effort to enforce any sort of rules. And so, again, law enforcement has to come in and sort of clean up the mess. It is a very, very challenging thing, not only from a safety perspective, but also officers have to be very careful in every single thing they do to make sure that they're being very measured in their use of force, because there's always a risk of officers being individually prosecuted for anything that they might do that's perceived as excessive. So again, very difficult for law enforcement.
Absolutely. And just lastly, how does the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund support officers who are involved in situations like this, which are, scrutinized amid public controversy and potential legal challenges, as you just mentioned?
Yeah, well, that's what we do and have done for 30 years. Is we identify cases throughout the United States in which law enforcement officers have been wrongfully singled out and prosecuted simply for doing their jobs. And I anticipate that in this round of protests, as there were in 2020, there will be police officers wrongfully singled out. Again, to make another political point from local prosecutors, and will be brought in, to financially support officers who've been wrongfully accused. So I expect that will likely happen, unfortunately.
And we'll keep our eye on that. Thank you so much. Jason Johnson, president of the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Next, we move to former President Trump's New York hush money trial. The judge is holding a hearing now on Trump's gag order. Trump commented on the trial as he entered the courtroom today. Let's see that.
We're down at the trial now, getting ready to spend another day in the courthouse, which is bogus trial that every leading authority on law says should never have been brought, that Alvin Bragg didn't want to bring it until the election happened, and then he brought it. You just do know that this case could have been brought 8 years ago. Could have been brought 8 years ago. Instead, they wait and wait and wait. They know it's not a good case, and now it's turned out to be they've lost they have no case. They have no case.
And joining us now is NTD legal correspondent Arlene Richards, who's outside the courtroom right now.
Arlene, what's the latest from the trial over there?
Well, after the gag order hearing earlier this morning, in which the prosecution has asked the judge to fine Trump another $1,000 for each additional violation, the trial did get underway again, and the witness was Keith Davidson. Keith Davidson returned from Tuesday. He is the attorney who represented Stormy Daniels in the $130,000 deal for her to remain quiet about an affair she says she had with Trump, which Trump denies. Now, Cohen and Davidson were in negotiations, and Davidson testified that Trump was involved and that he was being consulted by Cohen during the negotiations. He said that he believed that Trump was the beneficiary of the deal and that Trump was going to pay the money. But apparently what happened was that Cohen couldn't get the money from Trump, so Cohen decided to pay it himself. Now, Davidson is continuing this testimony about his back and forth with Cohen right now as we speak. There's also some testimony about what things happened after the money was paid. Now, he says that after the money was paid, Cohen was concerned that Stormy Daniels was going to breach the contract. And there was a lot of back and forth about him threatening to sue her for that. And then he talks about at some point in time, she signed a letter saying that she never really had the affair. So I think they're talking right now, the prosecution is trying to get out of him what was the reason why she signed that letter and whether or not she really did have this affair.
And in terms of the overall charges in this case, how does Davidson's testimony help the prosecution prove its case against Trump?
Well, that's a good question, because the charges against him are falsification of business records. There's 34 counts. Each count represents one of the entries in the business records that his accounting department labeled as legal fees. Now, it's not clear what they should have been labeled as, but the prosecution is saying that they were mislabeled in order to deceive the public, to influence his campaign and deceive the voters. But they still haven't said exactly what the labeling should have been. Now, the counts, the 34 counts themselves, the falsification of business records, are actually misdemeanors, and the statute of limitation has already run on them. So in order for them to still charge him now, they say that this was in furtherance of another crime. But that crime is not clear either. He was running for president in 2016, and the defense says that the prosecution can't charge him with a federal crime. And what that federal crime would be that he failed to report the money that he got from Cohen that's benefiting his campaign. He failed to report that, so that's a violation of federal election law. But the defense says that they can't charge him with a federal election violation. So what's the charge? It's not clear. It seems to be that it's conspiracy and cover-up, and that he falsified the business records, and that the crime is that it was a conspiracy to benefit his campaign. But there hasn't been any actual law stated in this trial so far. So I think that what Davidson's testimony is trying to help prove here is to make the connection between the actual $130,000 payment and this falsification of business records. But I'm not sure that that's enough so far to convict Trump with a crime. Back to you.
All right, Arlene Richards at the New York County Courthouse, thank you so much. A California judge has denied a request from one of former President Donald Trump's ex-election lawyers to reactivate his law license.
Last month, she recommended that he be disbarred. Rowland wrote in her decision that he fails to demonstrate that he no longer presents a threat to the public. Eastman is unable to practice law for now. The former lawyer says he wants to continue to represent clients and pay his own legal bills. The California Supreme Court will ultimately decide whether to disbar him. Eastman is charged alongside Trump and others in the Georgia election case. He's pleaded not guilty in that case. Eastman was also indicted last month in Arizona, along with more than a dozen other Trump advisors and alternate electors. And let's get some insight into the presidential race. A recent poll by the University of North Florida is out with some interesting findings, like a big switch among Biden and Trump voters. NTD's Kevin Hogan has the numbers for us. Kevin, what can you tell us?
Yes, Steph, we're down in the Data Hub, and we're going to look at who Americans are likely to vote for in the 2024 presidential election. Now, this is 45% of Americans who are saying they're going to vote for President Joe Biden. Now, a similar number, but a little bit larger, 47% say that they are going to vote for former President Donald Trump. A couple of the reasons for the larger support for Trump here could be, if we look back to the botched Afghanistan withdrawal, these wars have been plaguing the Biden administration. Also, some of that protest vote for the war in Gaza, some of the Arab Americans protesting and choosing non-committed in the primaries that we see here. Also, President Biden has a very low approval rating, which could be a reason why there's only 45% of Americans that are saying they're going to vote for him. His approval rating is about 35%, according to Pew Research Center. And he's also losing support from young Americans because of that persistently high inflation here. But now, not everything is smooth sailing for former President Trump, as he has multiple criminal charges against him, and his criminal trial in New York is underway. We're going to look now at who would gain more support from their historic voters. Now, we look at this number here. This is critical. These are people, 2%, who voted for Trump in 2020 are switching over now, and they're going to support President Biden. Whereas 3 times that number, 6%. That's 6% of people who voted for Biden in 2020 are now switching over and choosing former President Donald Trump. You ask why that is? Well, Biden has 88% of support from these Americans who voted for him in 2020. A lot of them could be college educated. He's picking up a little bit more support than former President Trump, taking a few votes away from him, whereas Trump is gaining with people who are under 45 years old, independents and non-white voters, which could be part of the reason why 6% of those 2020 Biden voters are now switching over to former President Trump.
All right, thank you for that, Kevin. Now turning to New Jersey, high school students are training to serve as poll workers to help meet the high demand for this year's elections.
Face up, face down, just slide it in, and we should hear 2 beeps.
They aren't old enough to vote, but these New Jersey high school students will take part in the 2024 presidential election regardless. They will serve as poll workers for the June primary and the November general election after completing this training course.
For me, I always had an interest in politics because I'm a debater and a lot of it revolves around that. So I was interested to see the democratic process come to life before my eyes.
I think this is a really, really great opportunity to actually give kind of teenagers and people under 18 an opportunity to do the things that they care about and to get involved. And so that's why I'm here.
Basically, my parents are both immigrants, and they never really had the opportunity to vote. So kind of being part of that whole process and being able to help out and see how the elections really are, and kind of I guess learn more about it before I become 18 and I decided to vote.
Growing up, I've always wanted to kind of see what the whole ballot box looks like, everything like that. I kind of want to see what kind of people go to vote. It's always been very interesting to me. So being able to see that firsthand and actually being able to help them is something that seems really exciting.
New Jersey's Bergen County, where they live, is trying to double the number of poll workers it has for the expected high voter turnout and to deal with a new voting system.
They're changing the way we voted in New Jersey, right? And this is going to be the first time for a lot of people to vote with the new machines. And the young people having the skills, the technology skills, are going to help those that have some challenges with the new process.
The younger kids just really picked this up. And it's a benefit for us, it's a benefit for the county. And, like I said, it was a pilot program we started last year. It was very successful. And so we improved on it this year. And we expect that November we'll be doing it again with other schools.
Each student will walk away with $400 if they work 8-hour shifts in both the June primary and the November general election, in addition to completing the training.
Coming up, a major legal battle is bubbling up over the Biden administration's Title IX changes. We'll have the general counsel of a grassroots legal organization break it down for us.
And over half of all states are suing the Biden administration. They're challenging a new rule requiring background checks for all gun purchases.
Georgia is now the latest state to enact legislation against illegal immigration. We have the details of a new law in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
I have never seen a production any better than this, anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
Invigorating. It was encouraging. Gave me hope.
This has just been therapy for the soul.
It's a must-see. Must-see.
Make sure you see it. Make sure you see it.
Coming to Lincoln Center, NJ Pack, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. ShenYun.com.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over, your entire order ships absolutely free.
What was the process of actually putting this all together?
Many hours of finding the right camera angles and watching it. The first trouble started just after 1 o'clock.
45 pages, here it is right here. Donald Trump has been indicted.
Somber day for the country.
This all happened before President Trump's speech was over.
The founder of the Oath Keepers militia group is headed to prison for more than 18 years.
His lawyers didn't have this video. The video we're watching right now, his own lawyers did not have. There was a big question of what did the people do who actually did enter the building.
This is where we picked it up with the security footage that is new. At this point, the story dramatically changes.
The New Jersey man who assaulted a Capitol police officer on January 6th has been sentenced.
So this was withheld.
This was not shown to the defense.
That could be considered exculpatory evidence. This doesn't seem like what a lot of the media is showing.
It's going to change narratives no matter what your political perspective is. What we're after is the truth.
House Republicans and House Democrats are working together to tackle the rise of anti-Semitism on U.S. campuses and keep Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House.
Our Washington correspondent, Luis Martinez, joins us live from the Capitol. Luis, what's behind these bipartisan efforts?
Yes, well, this week, Steph, the House of Representatives passed the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act with 320 votes in favor and about 90 votes against. So unlike the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act reauthorization, and unlike foreign aid to Ukraine, and unlike the passage of the 2024 fiscal year budget, it was Democrats and not Republicans that were opposing this bill. Around 91 Democrats opposed the bill, only 21 Republicans. And we've actually heard from House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries calling on his House Democrats to support efforts to fight anti-Semitism. Let's listen to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
We should be doing everything possible in a serious and sensible way to combat anti-Semitism, to crush anti-Semitism, to bury it in the ground and make sure that it can never rise again. Combating anti-Semitism is not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. It should be an American issue.
So there we have listened to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries calling on bipartisan efforts to confront anti-Semitism. And also this week, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries released a statement saying that House Democrats would support Speaker Mike Johnson in case Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene moves to activate her motion to vacate the speakership. Let's listen to Representative Eric Swalwell, a Democrat from California, explaining why they would support a Republican speaker in this scenario.
So if chaos agents like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others want to just send us and to send us back into chaos at the expense of getting things done, I do agree with our Democratic leadership that we should avoid that, whether we are in charge of the House or not. You know, getting things done has to be the priority.
So, Chris, Steph, unlike what we've seen in recent weeks, we've seen some bipartisan efforts in the House of Representatives, and it's actually House Democrats calling on those on the far left of their own conference to join in to fight anti-Semitism and also to defend Speaker Mike Johnson.
So, Luis, it seems that House Democrats are giving Speaker Johnson some much-needed political support. Is this support conditional or negotiated?
Well, it's very interesting because House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, yes, released that statement saying that House Democrats would support Speaker Johnson, but specifically on the procedural motion filed by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene to oust Speaker Johnson. This was filed over a month ago, but Hakeem Jeffries, a minority leader for the Democrats, refused to commit to subsequent efforts to save Speaker Johnson. Let's listen to what House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries had to say about this.
We've made clear this is a vote of conscience, a procedural vote on a motion to table, but also a vote of conscience that every single member of the House Democratic Caucus will make a decision on based on their assessment of the situation.
Of course, there were some suspicions among the press whether Speaker Mike Johnson had reached an agreement with Democrats before passing Ukraine aid in order to get this political cover. When Speaker Mike Johnson was asked whether he had actually reached a deal with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, this is what he had to say.
No. I was laser focused on getting the supplemental done. Now, I've had colleagues from both parties come up to me on the floor, of course, and say, we won't stand for this. We're not going to shut the government down and all that, shut the House down. And, of course, I've acknowledged that. But I've not requested assistance from anyone. I've not focused on that at all. I've focused on getting the job done and getting the legislation passed. And that's what. No, there's no deals at all. No, not at all.
Of course, House Democrats and House Republicans welcomed the passage of the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act yesterday with overwhelming numbers. Over 320 members of the House of Representatives voted for this bill, but it remains to be seen if this bipartisanship will last much longer. Back to you, Chris, Steph.
All right, Luis Martinez, thank you so much. The legal battle surrounding President Biden's recent change to Title IX is ramping up. The modified rule opens the door to men participating in women's sports. Now, states across the country are challenging the law. The latest, filed Tuesday by attorneys general from Tennessee and Kentucky. They led 6 more states against the rule change. Here to break that down for us is Jonathan Houlihan, General Counsel and Director of Legal Operations for Citizens Defending Freedom. Jonathan Houlihan, thank you so much for joining us. What are these attorneys general arguing in their lawsuit against these Title IX changes?
Well, you've seen lawsuits across the country, multiple states. You've even seen additional lawsuits in Texas, Montana, Idaho, Louisiana. They've all have the same baseline, that there's misguided reliance on the Supreme Court ruling of Bostick versus Clayton County that came out in 2020, which was a Title VII case. And specifically in that Supreme Court holding, it didn't apply to Title IX or any other federal statutes. It was really limited to that employment discrimination case. So they've all alleged that it's based on this misguided reliance, and it violates religious liberty, due process, free speech rights across the board. There's some allegations in these lawsuits that the Administrative Procedures Act has been violated, and really it's a violation of Article 1, Section 1 of the United States Constitution, where legislative powers are vested in the Congress of the United States. And when you have these administrative agencies, in this case the Department of Education, changing the law from 1972 of Title IX and adding gender identity as a protected class, it really violates separation of powers. It violates our whole system of governance when you have lawmaking coming out of the executive branch and not out of the legislative branch.
Yeah, and like we're saying now, there are all these legal challenges to the Biden administration's move here with Title IX. But what could any potential defense against those legal challenges look like?
Well, they could say that Congress has granted these administrative agencies the power to provide regulation, rulemaking authority. They followed the Administrative Procedures Act to a T. They've allowed public comment. But I would say, again, the whole baseline of their misreading of the Bostick case is the foundation of their rule. So they've taken a Supreme Court case and said, Supreme Court has said that you can't discriminate based on gender identity. Well, that was true, and that was limited, very limited in a Title VII case. So that would be the defense, but I think it's a weak defense. I think what they're really trying to do is just push this gender identity talking points down to the state level, have schools start changing policies, have to identify, create this gender identity within all the local school districts. And that's why it was encouraging to see several states, Texas, Florida, governors of Oklahoma, all of them have said, we're not going to comply with this. They've directed their education departments to not comply, and they're seeking injunctive relief through litigation in the federal courts to stop this rule from being enforced.
All right, Jonathan Houlihan, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
A second whistleblower has died unexpectedly. Josh Dean was one of the first whistleblowers of Boeing to allege defects on the 737 MAX.
He was in critical condition for 2 weeks with a fast-spreading bacteria infection.
Dean is a former quality auditor at Boeing supplier Spirit AeroSystems between 2019 and 2023. He died Tuesday morning at the age of 45.
Dean had filed a complaint with the FAA alleging, quote, serious and gross misconduct by senior quality management of the 737 production line.
He said Spirit leadership ignored manufacturing flaws, such as improperly drilled holes, when he raised them. Spirit fired Dean in April 2023. Dean said this was in retaliation for raising safety concerns.
Dean's relatives said he was in good health and had a healthy lifestyle. He was admitted to the hospital after trouble in breathing, and his condition worsened rapidly from there. Another whistleblower was found dead of a gunshot wound less than 2 months ago. Authorities in Maryland have recovered the body of the 5th victim at the Francis Scott Key bridge collapse site. Unified Command identified the victim as 49-year-old construction worker Miguel Angel Luna Gonzalez. According to the release, investigators recovered his body from inside a red truck. The bridge collapsed in March after a cargo vessel hit it. Authorities are still at work clearing the debris to fully reopen the channel to the harbor. And Georgia is now the latest state to enact legislation against illegal immigration. Governor Brian Kemp signed a new immigration enforcement law aimed at bolstering public safety.
The governor signed around 10 new measures into law yesterday. He says they serve to counteract lawlessness, boost recruitment of police officers, and make communities safer.
One of the bills requires law enforcement to check the immigration status of some individuals. That includes people who are arrested or detained and those who might have committed a crime.
If the person is in the country illegally, police must then notify federal authorities.
This comes as conservative states across the country have implemented laws targeting illegal immigration, including Florida, Louisiana, and Oklahoma.
Over half of all states are suing the Biden administration. That's over a new rule regarding background checks for gun purchases. Under the new law, almost every gun transfer would require one party to have a federal firearms license. That party also has to perform a criminal background check. This includes private sales.
The rule changes the requirement for determining whether a person is engaged in the business of selling guns. The defining characteristic used to be whether the person sells guns to earn a livelihood. This would now be changed to earn a profit.
The new law is set to take effect next week. Attorneys general from 26 conservative states filed at least 3 lawsuits. They argue that the rule violates certain laws and the U.S. Constitution. And coming up, the U.S. is accusing Russia of using illegal chemical weapons in Ukraine. Did Moscow breach the chemical weapons ban? We delve into it.
And the death toll jumps to 45 in the deadly highway collapse in southern China, and how the highway had just passed a safety check, the reaction of local residents.
South Korean lawmakers approved a new inquiry into the 2022 Halloween crash. The deadly incident claimed more than 150 lives. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
Hi, folks. Do you trust this economy? What if you could receive a strong fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? And what if you were in control? You could turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose. What if your interest was compounded daily, you were paid monthly, and there were absolutely no fees? And what if you could have peace of mind because there was no attack on your principal if you ever needed your money back? Well, folks, there is an investment with all of these features. Investors all over the country are earning a high fixed rate of return with YRefi, and they don't care about what happened with the stock market or the Fed. And best of all, they receive their statement every month with no surprises. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST. Or log on to investyrrefi.com. That's investyrrefi.com. YRefi, do well by doing good.
Hey everyone, it's me, Sebastian, and it is a beautiful day today. We have so much to be grateful for, so just remember, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. I just love inspiring people to be the best they can be, and the reason I'm able to inspire so many people is because people like you who inspire me with your support of Shriners Hospitals for Children. Since I was little, I've broken 100 bones, and I've had 19 surgeries. Shriners Hospitals for Children was with me every step of the way. But more than that, they've given me the confidence to know I can do whatever I set my mind to. Like right now, I've set my mind to sharing my smile with you. Did you get it?
Because of people like you, I can play the violin.
I can play piano.
I can understand.
The help I get is only possible because of caring people like you who pick up the phone and call the number on your screen to make your monthly gift.
And when you call or go online right now to donate $19 a month or more, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of all the smiles you're bringing to kids' faces every day.
Kids like me.
And me.
And me.
And me. So what are you waiting for? You can inspire kids like me by visiting loveshriners.org. After all, you can't help everyone, but you can help someone. So let's go!
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving. Join me and bring a smile to the world with your monthly gift today.
Please call now. If operators are busy, please call again or go to loveshriners.org right away.
Join me and bring a smile to the world.
And now we have some short headlines from the UK and other European countries. The U.S. says Russia used banned chemical agents against Ukrainian troops. It's imposing further sanctions against Russia.
In a statement yesterday, the State Department detailed how Russian forces used the choking agent chloropicrin against Ukrainian troops and said it wasn't an isolated incident.
It compared the use of chemicals on the battlefield to the poisoning of the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who died in February. Russia has denied any involvement in his death.
Ukraine has accused Russia of using grenades containing tear gas. Both tear gas and chloropicrin are commonly used in riot control. However, their use is prohibited by international law on the battlefield, where soldiers cannot disperse and escape.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says his country is working on multiple new security agreements with its allies. This includes one with the United States.
Zelenskyy didn't give specific details, but he said the 7 agreements include cooperation in defense, finance, and politics.
The Ukrainian president also said preparations are ongoing for a June international summit in Switzerland. The summit will aim to secure peace in the war with Russia. The European Union today offering Lebanon a financial package worth $1 billion. That's to support its faltering economy and its security forces.
Lebanon has suffered an economic crisis for years. This was partly caused by decades of excessive spending and corruption. Many have been locked out of their bank savings. The local currency has collapsed and public institutions have struggled to keep functioning.
The EU says the money would help bolster basic services in Lebanon, including health and education. But she added that it's crucial for Lebanon to improve its business environment and banking sector. People in the UK are voting in local and mayoral elections today. London Mayor Sadiq Khan was among other prominent politicians heading to stations to cast their votes.
Over 2,600 council seats are set to be contested. Almost 40 police commissioners and the 25 members of the London Assembly will also be elected.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party is lagging behind the opposition Labour Party by about 20 points in the polls.
This as the country prepares for a national election that is likely to come later this year. A bad showing for the Conservative Party today will likely increase pressure on Sunak and lead to renewed calls for his replacement.
And the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has some good news for the global economy. A new forecast shows there are several reasons for some continued optimism.
The new report acknowledges that the economy still suffers from high interest rates and a tight labor market, but it notes that inflation has declined within sight of central bank targets.
Washington is urging China and Russia to declare that only humans and never artificial intelligence would make decisions on deploying nuclear weapons. The U.S., France, and Britain have all made what the State Department called a clear and strong commitment on the matter. That's according to State Department Arms Control official Paul Dean's remarks earlier today. He also said declaring humans have total control over nuclear weapons is a, quote, extremely important norm of responsible behavior.
As of now, Beijing hasn't responded to a request for comment. President Biden has been trying to communicate with China on both nuclear weapon policy and the growth of artificial intelligence.
And zooming in on Russia, last year, Russian President Vladimir Putin suspended a key nuclear arms deal with the U.S. The START treaty allowed Russia and the U.S. to inspect nuclear facilities as an effort to limit the other's nuclear arsenal.
In southern China, the death toll from a highway collapse has doubled, and the highway had just undergone safety checks during the flood season.
The death toll now stands at 48. But it could top 50 as there are 3 other people who remain unidentified awaiting DNA testing. Beijing has a history of covering up disaster data, though, so numbers here remain unverified.
Today, the head of the Chinese Communist regime, Xi Jinping, instructed local authorities to maintain social stability. Now, many Chinese citizens are urging the authorities to conduct investigations into the construction companies.
Worth noting, the highway just undergone a safety check at the end of April. According to Chinese media reports, a section of the same highway also collapsed last April. And the Philippines says it has summoned a Chinese diplomat. Chinese vessels fired water cannons at Philippine ships near a disputed shoal in the South China Sea earlier this week.
In a statement today, the Philippines Foreign Ministry says it is protesting the harassment, ramming, swarming, shadowing and blocking, dangerous maneuvers, use of water cannons, and other aggressive actions of China's Coast Guard and maritime militia.
The nation is demanding the Chinese vessels leave the vicinity immediately.
South Korea is launching a fresh probe into the deadly Halloween crush. Nearly 160 people in the crowd were killed in Seoul in 2022.
The country's National Assembly voted to approve the bill, backed by both the ruling and opposition parties, to further investigate the tragedy. It comes amid growing pressure on authorities, including from relatives of the victims, to hold those responsible for the fatal crush to account. Jung Mi-ra, the mother of one of the mostly young people who were killed, spoke outside the parliament.
Yoon Suk-yeol's government will sincerely respond to requests for data submission and attendance for fact-finding, and should not try to hide or reduce anything. Through this, the fundamental cause and responsibility of the disaster on October 29, 2022 should be identified, and the honor of 159 victims should be restored, and measures to prevent reoccurrence should be taken.
An earlier bill, backed by the opposition-led parliament, but not the ruling People Power Party, was vetoed by President Yoon Suk-yeol in January. This latest bill is a compromise. It doesn't grant full investigative power to the panel, which Yoon's office said he objected to. But under the legislation, a committee recommended by two major parties and a chair chosen by them will look into the tragedy. The United Nations Human Rights Committee, as well as the victims' families, have repeatedly called for an independent inquiry. A police investigation published early last year concluded that unpreparedness and an inadequate response were the main factors behind the deadly crush. In January, South Korean prosecutors indicted the former head of the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency. He was charged with contributing to the crush through negligence. No senior government figures have resigned or been sacked so far.
Still to come, sons and daughters are trying to figure out what to get or what to do for Mother's Day. A fashion and lifestyle director shares some great ideas on showing appreciation for your mom.
And Japanese officials build a barrier to block views of the iconic Mount Fuji. The move is part of an effort to cope with tourist misbehavior and overcrowding. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
I'm Richard Karn, and I love my hose. It ain't those old hoses. This is my hose. The new Pocket Hose Copper Bullet, now infused with real copper, so your water is always clean and lead-free. Just turn on the water and watch your hose grow and grow. And when you turn off the water, away it goes. Our new inner tube uses 3 layers of high-strength latex on the inside. Then it's wrapped in a new polymer filament jacket, 3 times stronger than the other hoses. But my favorite part of our new hose build? The oversized, easy-to-grip fittings. Get the super light 25-foot Pocket Hose Copper Bullet today for only $29.99. But wait, call now and get our copper spray nozzle with our exclusive thumb drive free. This is an exclusive release of our newest Pocket Hose. Order now.
Call 1-800-960-8919. That's 1-800-960-8919 or visit copperbullethose.com. Order now.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, ride your bike.
If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it.
If you're happy and you know it, smile big and bright.
Thousands of kids just like me are happy every day.
And it's all because of generous people like you who support Shriners Hospitals for Children every month.
All you have to do is call the number on your screen or go online to loveshriners.org right now with your monthly gift.
Because of people like you, Shriners Hospitals for Children is able to make an everyday miracle happen for kids like me.
If you're happy and you know it, dance around. If you're happy and you know it, play a song.
If you're happy and you know it, and your face will surely show it.
If you're happy and you know it, take a shot.
And when you call or go online right now to donate $19 a month or more, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of all the smiles you're bringing to kids' faces every day.
Will today be the day you send your love to the rescue?
When you call the number on your screen right now and give as little as $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you'll be making a life-changing difference for a child, just like Sarah.
Your monthly gift today could change your life forever.
Because of you.
We are happy and we know it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please call or go online right now to give. If operators are busy, please wait patiently or go to loveshriners.org right away.
For the day's top headlines and the news you need to know, tune in right here to NTD Evening News.
With Mother's Day coming up, sons and daughters are trying to figure out what to get or what to do for mom. Instead of traditional chocolate and flowers, the holiday offers an opportunity to get more creative. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports on some shopping suggestions to show mom you care.
Mother's Day is about appreciation. For mom, Lacey Dipple, it's about family.
What Mother's Day means to me is getting to spend time with my family and also getting to shower my friends who are mothers and getting to shower my mom and my mother-in-law with love.
But sometimes children and adult children want to do something unique for mom. An accessory that reminds her of her kids is a good bet.
If you want to get mom something you know she'll love, get her something personal. Fossil is a great place to go for that because they can personalize any of their items in the store on site. So you can have it done in the same day you purchase the item.
Maybe mom likes to knit or collect china. You could get her some interesting yarn, a new piece of dinnerware.
I think it's important to think about who your mom is and what she might like. So for instance, if she does yoga, a yoga mat from Lululemon is a great idea. If she is headed to the beach this summer or likes to be outside, maybe a beach bag from Tommy Bahama. And of course, all moms like to be spoiled. So something like she can have a spa day at home with beauty items from Nordstrom.
Good old-fashioned pampering goes a long way, too. Breakfast in bed and mani-pedis would be greatly appreciated. Maybe do some chores around the house so she doesn't have to.
Another great gift for mom are bath goodies from Lush. And what I love about Lush is they have pre-wrapped gifts that you can just grab and go. They're all of mom's favorites. They're wrapped in Mother's Day wrapping paper, or they can wrap them right there on site for you. Another great beauty tool that is a good gift for mom is a Dyson Airwrap. She can actually get a blowout quality hairstyle at home every day.
Mother's Day is Sunday, May 12th. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And Japan is blocking views of the iconic Mount Fuji. Officials say it's to cope with tourists misbehaving and overcrowding. An 8-foot high and 60-foot wide black barrier is expected to be completed in just a couple weeks.
It's right next to a convenience store that sits across from the volcano and has become a photography hotspot. The crowds have led to complaints of littering and illegal parking.
The wall is the latest sign of Japan's struggle to accommodate an unprecedented surge in visitors. The increase comes amid a 34-year low in the nation's currency.
The weak yen has made Japan an irresistible bargain for travelers, which is good news for the economy. However, the surge has been creating tension with the locals.
And if you've ever wanted to experience some truly unique places you've heard about or seen on screen, you may be able to someday through Airbnb.
The vacation rental company has announced a collection of options called Icons. They're hosted by big names in music, film, TV, and sports.
Here are just a few of them. You can live like the X-Men if you rent this 2D animated recreation of Marvel Animation's X-Mansion located in Westchester, New York. You'll discover your mutant abilities and even train in the Danger Room.
Then there's the iconic house from the Disney and Pixar animation Up. It's located in scenic New Mexico and comes with more than 8,000 balloons. And yes, the house really floats.
Wow. Then for fans of music legend Prince, you can experience his Purple Rain house in Minneapolis for the first time ever. Prince purchased the home featured in the legendary film Purple Rain. It's never been available to the public until now.
Explore the home and go crazy for rare and special tracks from Prince in an exclusive studio session, where reggaeton fans can join music superstar Feed on his world tour for an entire week.
Sounds like fun. Well, for round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
And be sure to stick around for NTD Newsroom at 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll cover more stories from the U.S. and around the world.